Hello everyone and welcome back to the A-Side. I am your host, Riley, and I've decided to start a new series where I talk about the newly released albums I heard that I didn't get a chance to review or react to at the end of each month. I'm tentatively going to call it Album Recap, which I know is kind of a generic name, but it's the best I could come up with. So welcome to the January 2023 album recap. I do want to clarify, however, I'm not Fantano, I'm not ARTV. This isn't my full-time job. Of course, no hate to those guys. They're great in their own respects. But this isn't my full-time job. I'm in college, among so many other things in my life I'm trying to balance. Friends, being an uncle, so much more, So I won't be listening to nearly as many albums as the more established full-time YouTubers, like your Fantanos, like your ARTVs. Of course, and this is also just the leftovers too. Someone like Fantano listens to thousands of albums a year, and talks about like 15 in his Why You Know reviews. Like, I'm not gonna listen to that many. I have 5 for you today, but it'll give me a chance to talk about some records I didn't get a chance to talk about before, because I listened to a lot of music, and I noticed in 2020, 2021, and 2022, especially 2022, I listened to so many albums and new releases that I didn't even talk about, or even like hint to the fact that I heard them, so I thought this would be a good way to kind of catch up and talk about records that either I didn't have enough to say about for a full review, I didn't react to, or just didn't get a chance to talk about, and this is what the series is going to be for. Anyway, if you're new around here, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. It's free, and you can always unsubscribe later if you want. Hit the like as well while you're down there. I don't usually ask for likes, but hey, it helps. Anyway, starting out with our first project, we have Winter Beatmaking High School by Heavn. One you probably haven't heard of. Heavn is an artist I stumbled upon looking for hyperpop and cloud rap artists, and kind of hyperpop, cloud rap adjacent artists. Think Blade, Tyboy Digital, on the cloud rap side, and then on like the hyperpop side, like Glaive, Eric DOA, Jane Remover, that kind of stuff. His previous project, Suburbia, was based around acoustic guitar, but had this cloud rap style production, similar to like a Drain Gang kind of thing, and these hyperpop-esque vocals, kind of similar to like an early Glaive kind of thing, reminding me of like that first Greenhouse EP, like the stuff on there. Here on Winter Beatmaking, and that last project was really interesting, and was actually a very last-minute cut to my Album of the Year list last year. It was like 22, 23. And here in Winter Beatmaking High School, Heavn goes for more of a straightforward cloud rap sound, and it turns out really nice. I really enjoy the beats on this record. Beats on songs like Christmas, Burn House, and Angel Plus Plus are really cool. However, the same cannot be said for the featured artists. I don't care for many of the performances here. Butterflies is borderline unlistenable because of Miha's performance. And sadly, that kind of seems to be the concept of the album, with like the name and stuff. Heavn making beats for various artists to rap and sing over, and sadly, I think it fails in that regard. 4 out of 10. Next up, we have 4, the 4th self-titled album by Lukas Graham, also being referred to as the Pink Album. And the Pink Album is corporate radio fodder. This record feels like it was made by a board of directors. It's bland and lifeless. It's overproduced and oversanitized to the max. It doesn't help that Lukas Graham has a horrible voice. When he jumps into his higher register, it's so shrill and rough. It feels like daggers piercing my brain. The opening's instrumentation is so bad. It takes the kind of clusterfuck audio nightmare approach that AJR takes, but somehow makes it feel bland and lifeless, because there's a lot you can say about AJR, but bland and lifeless are not those things. They have personality, they have life, even if it's a personality I don't necessarily like, it's there, where this just feels so empty and corporate. There are points where he tries to switch things up, like he tries to do a country thing, but it feels so cold and calculated, and like I said, just so corporate that it doesn't matter. And the slow songs on this album are just like pulling teeth with how little personality they have. And the G-Eazy feature on Share the Love is easily the worst rap verse I've ever heard, or at least one of them. I've heard nothing but horrible things about G-Eazy, but have been lucky enough to not have to be exposed to him before now, and I can say with all confidence that he is a talentless hack. This album was horrible. I mean, Lukas Graham of the past has hits like 7 years old, and that Mama said that it was okay. We're all horrible. But this is just corporate radio fodder, lifeless bullshit to the max. Reminded me a lot, actually, of the Charlie Puth album from last year, but at least Charlie Puth has a decent voice, and the respect to at least put a couple cool melodies in his songs. This is just the most bland, boring, uninteresting, mass-produced bullshit we'll ever hear. 0 out of 10. The next record is one I heard discussed quite a bit. I know Crash Thompson made a video on it, and that's kind of what introduced me to it. I haven't seen his video, but it was one of the first new reviews to come out this year. I think some other YouTubers talked about it. I'm talking about VV, his new album Neon Noir. And VV doesn't reinvent the wheel on Neon Noir, but I do think it's a solid album. I really don't like the vocals on the album, though. There's a shocking lack of enunciation on this record. It makes everything sound so mushy, and it's very mushy, and just feels very clumsy. However, the music on this album actually really holds up. This album sounds great instrumentally. The title track was a highlight for me. I love when the piano syncs up with his falsetto. It's a cool moment. Salute the Sanguine also has some pretty cool piano work. Tremodia has this wall of sound thing going on that is just beautiful. Heartful of Ghosts is one of the coolest lyrics I've ever heard. Heartful of Ghosts cry out to a Wendigo moon in Scorpio. That's metal. And if you like music that's more goth adjacent, I recommend checking out Neon Noir. I hear a lot of The Cure in this record. When he busts out the acoustic guitars, I hear a lot of The Head on the Door. And that's not an insult. Quite the opposite, actually, as I adore that album. Similarly, the aforementioned song Heartful of Ghosts wears its Disintegration influence like a badge of honor, especially in regards to the percussion. Once again, though, this is not a bad thing, as Disintegration is one of my favorite albums of all time. In fact, in the top 10. And when the vocals start to open up and reach into a larger, more epic scope, I get a lot of Ghosts vibes. So if you like either of those bands, The Cure or Ghost, I really think you should give this project a shot. I think you'll love it. I love The Cure. Ghost is okay. And you know what? I didn't adore this album, but I did enjoy it. And I think if you guys give it a shot, those of you who are into the more goth adjacent kind of goth rock and like The Cure and the more theatric sides of metal and all, I think you might end up really liking this album. I was hesitant at first, but the further I got into it, the more I liked it. And, I'm feeling a solid 6 out of 10. So this next album, I was thinking about doing a full review of, but I don't know if I can stand listening to this piece of garbage again, and I don't want to give it any more publicity than it needs. I'm talking about the new Trippie Red album, Mansion Music. I hate this album, and the more I think about it, the angrier I get. First, I think we need a little history lesson. So I don't think Playboi Carti invented the rage sound, but he definitely popularized it and made it explode in a way that it never has before. When Whole Lotta Red dropped, it was so innovating and so exciting. I loved it, and I loved the rage sound. So when Trippie transitioned into the rage sound and dropped Mr. Rage with Carti, I loved it. It was on repeat when it dropped. And naturally, I was greatly anticipating Trippie's following album, Trip at Night, which also embraced that rage trap sound. I thought that rage, especially on Whole Lotta Red, really pushed the envelope of trap and made it so fresh and so interesting in a way it had never been done before. And of course, Trippie took it on, and when Trip at Night came out, it did not disappoint. However, as often happens, the rage sound very quickly became oversaturated and commodified. You had everyone dropping these hour-long rage albums with literally no effort, trying to make a quick buck and get their 15 minutes of fame. I mean, hell, look at someone like Yeet, who dropped 2 albums last year, and 3 albums a year prior, and trust me, it's quantity over quality here. 2 Alive, not a great album. The rage sound has become so incredibly tired, and on Mansion Music, Trippie's just contributing to this. The album's clearly a cash grab. I don't see why I should even care about this album, considering Trippie Red didn't at all. This album is an obvious cash grab to capitalize on the rage sound. He put absolutely no effort into this record. I found the record to be so tiring. It took me 3 tries to even get through it in full. And the beats on this album are just horrible. They're so generic, and they don't even sound good. They're overly loud, mixed like garbage. The 808s are so incredibly overblown, and the synths are all so one note and boring. I feel like these beats were just mass-produced in a couple of minutes, and the producer tags here drive me insane. The I'm shy, especially. Now, for the record, I like Daisy, the song that sound comes from, but after like the 10th time hearing it as the producer tag, I just want to reach for my headphones and throttle the producers. They're so repetitive. These songs, they're so repetitive. They all blend together. The beats, the songs, everything. It all blends together. It was actually exciting to hear guitars in the beginning of Crazy Train, regardless of how cheesy they were, just because it was something different and it wasn't the same thing over and over again, the same mass-produced generic beat. But then it quickly transitioned into a boring one-note generic rage beat. And it took 14 tracks for there to be a beat I even thought was remotely okay. That brings up another reason I hate this album, and why it's clearly made for money: the length. And this is a problem in hip-hop as a whole. This album is 25 tracks long. It is an hour and 16 minutes. Trippie does not have much to say. Much like the generic beats, he completely phones in the lyrics. There's a whole lot of nothing here. Most of his lyrical references are to anime or video games. Most of the lyrics here are references to anime or video games. And even those are repetitive, as he name drops Raiden from Mortal Kombat like 5 times. He name drops Goku from Fortnite, which he does in the last album too. And his flows don't justify the length either. It's the same thing over and over again. Usually Trippie is very recognizable and stands out. Here on Mantra Music, he has no personality or presence. It all blends together. I have a hard time even distinguishing him from his features. That's another issue I have with this record. The features. Pretty much every track has a feature, and it just draws things out. It makes things so tiring. And for a reason, 33.5. This album was clearly made for money. These songs were all released as singles, so they would show up on the featured artist Spotify page to reach more people, to get more clicks, to make more money. These features include such revered and beloved figures as DaBaby and Kodak Black. Worst of all, Nightcrawler has a Juice WRLD feature. And I've talked about this before with regards to Juice X and Pop Smoke. Let these poor people rest. Juice WRLD has been dead for 4 years. This year, it will have been 4 years. And people are still cannibalizing his death by taking old voice memos and recording and using them as features, so grieving fans will play your shitty song. I think it's disgusting. It's morally reprehensible. We need to let these people rest. Juice WRLD died in 2019. He died before this decade has even started, and so much of this decade has been people using his death, along with X and Pop Smoke, to get clicks and get listens, and I think that's just disgusting. In the end, Mantra Music by Trippie Redd is a disgusting commodification of art, made only for money with no love or passion. 0 out of 10. And there's a good chance this will be my worst album of the year, despite the fact that it's only February 1st. So, next, this is probably what you clicked on the video for. Let's Start Here by Lil Yachty. There's a lot of hype around this album. People are talking about it all over. Now, you might remember in 2021, I made a very negative reaction to his Michigan Boy Boat project. But I do like Yachty. He has a lot of personality. I really enjoyed the Birthday Mix 6 tape. It's got that weird pop punk song and the one with the filthy beat. And I still come back to that tape, actually. I also adored Poland. The filthy beat paired with Yachty's weird wobbly falsetto created a really haunting atmosphere. So, a lot of people saw that song as a joke, but I loved it. It actually reinvigorated my interest for hip-hop at the time. So when I heard Lil Yachty was dropped a new album on Instagram, I was expecting a record filled with filthy beats. So when I started the record and Black Seminole started, my jaw hit the floor. In a really unexpected move, Lil Yachty's new record is a 70s psych rock album that falls somewhere between Pink Floyd and Tame Impala, with influences from 70s soul and disco. This record, first off, sounds amazing. It's got really sleek production and a cool, spacey sound. A lot of people are saying they love the sound of the record, but aren't big on Yachty himself. I disagree. Like I said, Yachty has a lot of personality, and I'm glad he didn't lose himself in a style change like many other artists do. The auto-tune and his trademark falsetto are still here, creating that drugged-out vocal sound we all know and love. In my opinion, this combination makes for something interesting, and makes up when the record can really wear its influences on its sleeve. Some of the songs on here are great. The slap bass on Running Out of Time is groove maxing, and the melody of the synth line is just so classic. The wailing vocals of Pretty feel so otherworldly. I love Tizo Touchdown's second verse on The Ride. It feels like something that would be like a feature on a Gorillaz song. However, I'm not a fan of Failure. Yachty's ranting sounds like some unhinged Joe Rogan tangent that I see on TikTok that never makes any sense. But that's the low point of the record, and that's even not too horrible. I mean, Drive Me Crazy has this cool disco thing going on, with some really pretty, lush strings. This is a strange moment in music history, but I really love it. It's my favorite album of 2023 so far. This, along with Newfound Glory's shake-up in sound on their acoustic album, is making 2023 seem like it's going to be a weird year for music. I'm feeling a 7 out of 10. And that's all I have for you today. Let me know what you think of this new format, and if there's anything I could do to tweak it or make it any better going forward, because this is a series that's going to keep going and keep going forward. I intend on making this around the end of every month. Might be a little late, might be a little early, but I will get it out because I think it's a good way to cover albums, and I would love to talk more new releases like I did when I started my channel. I primarily did a lot of new releases, so I want to kind of try to do that again because I listen to them all, I just don't talk about them often. Anyway, yeah, this is what I heard this month. If you're interested in listening to my thoughts on whatever else I heard this month, the reviews are up for that. I think the only other new release I listened to this month was the new Newfound Glory album that I reviewed on here. Anyway, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time.